All right, so as soon as this drops, we're going to be there.
Yeah, I know.
We hope there was breaking news.
Hello, everyone. I'm glad y'all all can join us tonight. We had a little excitement there an hour or two ago. But tonight, we already had this show pre-planned of what we're going to be talking about tonight. And with the BG's clothing and the luminol and crime scene processing. And we're going to look at some interesting details of what possibly could have or may have occurred. But tonight, after the presentation and we get into chat, there was some breaking news released this week, and this is just for housekeeping. There's nothing wrong with debate. Some of y'all will be supporting a certain channel that dropped some information this week. Some of you will be very condemning of that channel. It's fine to talk respectable to each other about that, either support it or not. If you have displeasures or anything, there's no need to say them on this channel. Go to their website, communicate with them, send them emails, whatever, and either support them and what you believe, whichever way you believe. And but really tonight, all we want you to do is, if you are going to bring up that subject in chat, just be respecting each other. And you know, if you get out of hand, the mods are going to do what they're going to do. They'll handle it. And but that's the way we always want it. And respect the mods and respect each other. And so now we'll get into it.
Hold on. You're going to tell them I'm sad?
Oh, yes. I closed the pool today, so Mrs. Steve is a little bit upset here. She hates, this is the one time of year that she absolutely, the day of the year that she regrets the most.
Despises.
Yeah.
Okay.
But anyway, as always, a little brief bio of myself. This is Mrs. Steve, and I'm Steve. I'm retired law enforcement, 20 years of service. I've started off my career in the jail, worked road, and then went into investigations. During those 20 years, I had all kind of training from SWAT all the way through to becoming a crime scene tech, certified in here, and most certainly that certification, which was a lengthy time of going to a lot of courses, studying a lot of different topics, and getting training across the board, which a lot of, like I said, is crime scene investigations. And this was in a transition period for many, many years ago when we went from the pre-CSI knowledge, and it was just old school ways of investigation. And they came in and decided it needed to be more uniform, more structured, and that's what happened. And it most certainly increased the volume of solved cases, and was a benefit to it. And we have come to what we are now with the crime scene processing and what you see on TV. Although what you see on TV is in 43 minutes, on the actual crime scene where there's chaos and there's everything in the world going on, it's not 43 minutes. It's sometimes it can be 43 hours or longer. It just depends. But after I got my certification and worked during that time as an investigator, I investigated all different types of crimes, from basic crimes, burglaries, all the way up to homicides. Then I retired, and after I retired, found out that in the true crime world, on the internet, web sleuths, and decided that for me to have the best impact was become as good an ambassador for law enforcement as I could, and tried to create a channel whereas I can speak to a community, advise them of this is how law enforcement approaches things. Law enforcement isn't perfect. We mess up, and some people can admit to it, some people can't. But all in all, when law enforcement comes together to work a crime scene, they do it for one purpose, and that's to get those and make sure that we have justice for the victims of these animals, predators, psychopaths, ever how you want to classify them, ever how you want to talk about them. And we have to get them off the street. But that's what law enforcement tries to do. And most certainly law enforcement now has started embracing the web sleuth world. and using this community and spread the news and spread information for everything from wanted persons to acquiring tips for major cases, which is the way it should be. And so the more understanding we have from both the web sleuth towards law enforcement and from law enforcement to the web sleuth community, the better we all will be. But with that being said, we're going to be talking once again tonight. In my last show, we did the CSI and what he was wearing. And I showed you some blood stain patterns from synthetic blood that I had ordered and came in and did some control tests so that people could possibly see from what might have transpired. Lady M, thank you for becoming a YouTube member. Absolutely. And we appreciate all your support and all the members out there that's joined us. It supports us and allows us to do some things and some projects that's coming up, such as going on the road, going out there and see if we can't help some families and see if we, just have a good impact. But thank you for all our members and for our new members also. But with the synthetic blood and as I developed some of these control tests, I wanted to show the community out there that this is what can happen from just minimum transfer of certain blood stains to it can become extremely high volume transfers and a lot of blood stains of different types of patterns and things. And but tonight I wanted to show you that what you can't see visually with the technologies and proper technologies and techniques of collecting, you'll be able to see what your eyes couldn't see in that last show. You'll be able to see those blood stains and those synthetic blood stains, because this is the first time I worked with a synthetic blood. When I was trained and everything, we had to use actual blood. And but now we've technologies and it's been developed that they've come out with this synthetic blood. Thank you, Kristen, behind the crime door. Great creator here, has extremely. I respect her highly, and actually I'm going to be watching her show tonight. She's going to have Cop Facts on, so most certainly after our show, go visit her. If you don't know who Cop Facts is, it's well worth watching. But with the processes of the stuff I've brought and to create some of these testing is so that I can educate you of what law enforcement would be looking at and what would happen on a crime scene. And I think it's pretty revealing. But anyway, this is what Bridge Guy was wearing. And when I created my test, this is my personal protection, but I call it the Yeti suit. But I went out and to a wooded area behind me and created a outdoor crime scene, timed myself so I could only have so much time to create as much havoc and of what a chaotic crime scene might possibly look like. Not saying that this is what happened in Delphi, not at all. But I took the outdoor scene to show you that of certain things of what you may or may not be able to see and how hard it is for CSI to enter one of these scenes. When you watch it on some of the new shows, it looks so easy that everything is structured and they highlight it and it's in center frame. When you're out there doing this yourself, that's not the case. It's, there's so much other things within a scene and is going on around the perimeter that it takes some well-trained individuals to try to find as much evidence and find that golden egg that makes sure that law enforcement will be able to prosecute and find that individual that's responsible. And so it's, you have to be dedicated and you're well-trained and you understand this process. And when you understand the process, it works out pretty well. But anyway, this is a shirt that was in the last show. You most certainly can see that the shirt on the left doesn't appear to have much stain at all. When you turn the shirt inside out, you can start seeing some of the little off-stained areas. Now, these stains that I placed on the front of this shirt was stains that I created that were low impact, low velocity, mid impact, mid velocity type of stains. And you most certainly can't see from the naked eye on this dark blue pattern shirt. And I picked that color for the fact that the BG had on a dark color coat, so that you would that the stains were camouflaged or weren't apparent to the eye, so that if he walked out wearing just what he had on, hadn't removed a layer, that this was what you would see. You wouldn't see what you would expect on some of the crime scene shows of how bloodstained and how easily someone would say, oh, it's impossible for him to walk past me and me not notice certain stains. Well, as you can see here, now when you turn the shirt inside out, and you start seeing a few stains. But when I processed it, and this is that shirt on the front side of it, all the little luminescence of the blood stains, and all that blue is those impact stains from low velocity and mid velocity stains. And simply what it was is I had 2 gloves that I had soaked with synthetic blood and just clapped them together a couple of times, about 12 to 14 inches away from the shirt. And this is what it created. And this is, like I said, you can see from the shirt stripe pattern, this is basically the full chest area that if you go back, you don't see it, and you would never realize that there's this much of a blood transfers from the stains and the droplets of the low velocity and mid velocity stains. And but then also I went to the back, and I created, if you saw another show, everything from a handprint to arterial sprays to transfers from both the hand and from knife tip. And when you turn it inside out, you can see where there is some staining. Jennifer Rocha, thank you. Thank you for your support. It means a lot, and we'll be using it as we go on the road. Thank you. But as you look at the on the right side, you most certainly can't see all that, because I really went out there to create on this shirt. On the front side, it was minimum staining. On the back side, I put as much on it as I could to show you that even in the worst case scenario, from what the FBI put in their affidavit on the Logan warrant, that they most certainly believe that the offender would have become stained with blood stains from the victims and or of himself, because it's not uncommon for the offender also to harm themselves when you're in a confrontation with a knife. And so most certainly they anticipated that the offender would have some type of stains. So when I luminol the shirt, on the right here, you can see where the hand is. You wouldn't realize that there's a bloody hand print from that synthetic blood, but this is what it turns into in a darkened environment and processing the shirt. You can see the dark arts by Aaron. Thank you. Oh my God, this was
the experiment ever.
Thank you guys. But that's what I'm trying to show you, and that this is what law enforcement has to work with. And of course, you see it on TV, but in real life, it just doesn't happen in 43 minutes. You know, I have to come down and my lab work and set up and try to work with these chemicals and in a controlled environment. I didn't do this in the outside wooded area, although I will have some of those next week. I'm going to go up and process it. I've had a crime scene stage for, I don't know, week and a half now. And I'm interested in seeing through the weather conditions how it held up. But when you look at the arterial sprays, the handprint, and just to the left of in the darkened area, those 2 stains there, this is the hand. I just did a close-up of it, and so that y'all can see how well it does light up. And of course, the luminol, when you first process it and you're spraying it and you catch it with that camera, in the digital age, you're able to come back, get on your computer, run it through some filters, highlight, do some contrast, and do some shadow work. But you can tell so much from this handprint that they would have this. The law enforcement would have this handprint. Now, are they talking about in some of their stuff that there was prints at the scene? Is this what they might be alluding to? Could be, because we're talking about a two-way street. That, of course, this may be the transfer from the victims to the offender. But if it's a crime scene where the offender committed certain acts and the victim has a certain amount of blood on them, that once their hands become soaked in blood or any type of blood stain on their hands, that will be transferred back to the victim if they grab any other part of their body or their clothing, or if they make contact with it, such as this. And so law enforcement may, and they'll be looking for this. This is what the CSI will do. They will go in there and they'll look at that. They'll take the clothing, may not see anything, but when they luminol it, they may have the actual offender's hand size and maybe even partial prints on certain surfaces, because you can process anything, with the luminol. Sometimes it has, and there's other chemicals out there other than just luminol to process things with, but it's most certainly, to me, it's the one I used and the one I understood and one that has been around for as long as the CSI that I was involved in. So you may have the width of hand, you may have the length of thumb, you may have certain characteristics that someone could go in there and say, this individual hand size is this, which most certainly would narrow down the field of certain characteristics. And of course, they may be able to talk to certain professionals in the study of human bodies and things, and be able to tell you, the whatever ratios that you can determine from certain body parts and hands and arms and feet of how what type of person it is, his physical build. But I just thought that everyone should know is we're looking at from what happened to Bridge Guy and what could be on his clothing. But remember, Bridge Guy also had contact with two victims. What's on their clothing? What's on the other's trees or any materials left behind? That even if you don't have that a perfect fingerprint, there's a lot of other stuff that you could have at that crime scene that law enforcement and the CSI might have found. But then over here on the shirt size, the knife tip, of course, is just to the left of the hand, up in the top left-hand corner of the darkened area. And while it's not well defined, you can see that there is a certain curvature and there's a clean edge. And it's from the knife that I used in both the river experiment and on this experiment of taking it, having it transferred from a blood pool to a piece of clothing, and this is what it turned into. And but like I said, it's just part of the stuff that so that you would be able to realize that there's a lot more to what you can see visually. That Bridge Guy, while he wore that day, he got extremely lucky with the dark clothing or planned. Don't know which way. Don't know how organized he was. Don't know what type of offender or if he had prior offenses. But most certainly on some of his clothing, such as his jeans and his boots. Now, this is the boots thing. I will get to his jeans in a minute. But on the boots, they look like normal work boots. And, of course, normal work boots get stained. And they get stained with all different types of everything from chemicals to oil. In this case, I used the synthetic blood, stained them. Can't really tell that much about it. They just look like work boots that anyone in the world would wear. And but when you put them to luminol, this is what they turn into. And you can see the blood spatter and the stains really pop out. And with luminol, it's just a presumptive test. There's other tests that you would follow up with. Whenever you had a certain stain, you'd go in there and follow up with another presumptive test or two and establish, is that blood? Is it human blood? What kind of blood? And do the testing, do the lab work. And there's other things that you can check on shoes. I just on the luminol, processing this. I ordered some more luminol and got it in, and was able to be prepared as we go forward. That I didn't want to use all my luminol just on this, so I had purchased some more and got it in for backup. And but still, I tried to be as frugal with my experiments as possible, and still get the point across of and trying to educate. But on the jeans, I chose not to luminol them because most certainly you can see all the stains and patterns that are on these jeans, and so there wasn't a need to luminol them, although they would have been just like the one on the right. That's what they would have turned into. It would just be high vis, the blue, and you most certainly could have seen all those stains. Oh, just found. This is amazing. I had no idea. Thanks. But but it's like I said, this is the way law enforcement looks at crime scenes, and this is the way that they would go in there and process it. I know there's been some questions about that. Maybe the crime scene techs that originally showed up with the on the Delphi may have not been prepared. Don't know what type of training they had, but I know at some point in those first hours there was other teams available, and there was other from the FBI and other resources that came in. And I know even the FBI crime scene unit, or people wearing coats that said that, were on scene. And they most certainly will have all and everything with the government budget. From there's all different types of high-tech processing and equipment out there that is far greater than just this simple luminol. And they would have been able to use it, and they most certainly would have been able to process that scene at a level that very few crime scenes ever get. And just hopefully they got it at a point that there wasn't any loss of evidence. We don't know and won't know until court. And but I just wanted to do all that and make sure that people understood. But as always, as we wind down, right before we get into the comments and the questions, if you have any information, most certainly call in the information, notify law enforcement that something has occurred to you. You have some information that's critical that will identify whoever bridge guy is, so that we can have justice for Libby and Abby, because they deserve everything that we can do for them, and to keep this case at the top of the news chain in the web sleuth world. For the fact, as long as we keep that information out there, there's a good chance of what's going on and what has happened, and the positive signs that we've had, and some of the other signs that are coming up, because people are really starving for justice for these two young girls, and we owe that to them. And then on the side note, Mrs. Steve is extremely glad to.
There's my babies.
These are the animals you hear barking every
Just
now and then.
Maggie's the barker. Then Floyd, he's a barker. Penny doesn't bark. She's my sweet baby. She's the one that had the head injury a couple of weeks ago. And then Pearl, what is she? Great Pyrenees and Lab. And she's old, so she has issues of her very own. But that's my babies.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's we have our own little dog pack.
Yep.
All right. But like I said, now we'll get to the questions and stuff. And
all right. So let's go back to. I think they started early too. Let me go backwards.
it was like 7-something.
7:50 something. Oh, man, I'm so scrolling trying to get to the 7s. Okay, here we go.
But like I say, I appreciate everyone that's come in here and joined membership tonight, and all the other members that's with us, that's joined in the past, and everyone that contributes, from our views to our thumbs up. Everyone plays a part before the fact that this helps the channel as we grow, that we'll have a bigger impact and be able to get out there and communicate. Oh, Sun Bunny 39 became.
Sun Bunny. Oh, I like the sun too.
Oh yeah, she does. She loves it absolutely. But
All right, so let me
the
go.
light's still on.
Uh-oh. I like my blue light.
Yeah, but like I said, most certainly we appreciate all that, the memberships and stuff. So because like I said, it was going, as we go forward, it's going to have a great impact. And I think our trip we have planned is about 3 weeks away. We're going to be going up through the Midwest and speaking with some families, and hopefully we can have some type of impact or bring some comfort to them that, you know, the odds are extremely low because you're looking at cases that are some of them years old, multiple years old, and you've had some law enforcement that did due diligence, and so you're coming along behind some great minds, and so you still go out there and you try to find that one thing that they may have missed, and it's a long shot, but it's worth trying.
All right, and Christy Stevens, new to this channel, so welcome. I live in South Carolina, but from the Delphi area. Been following all I can about these girls. Are there any positive updates?
Well, we had the search of the Wabash River that went on for 4 weeks plus, ever how many days during that, and it ended. And they most certainly did it end with what we hope happened. Did they recover stuff? I absolutely know they recover stuff, but is it related to Delphi? That's where it's going to be going to the lab, because you have to think about all the items that could be thrown off that bridge over the years, and we're talking 5.5 years. Some of that may be unrelated. You may have other items, weapons, knives, digital devices, phones, anything and everything thrown off those bridges over the years for whatever reason. And they're going to have to go through there and sort out and create and let the people that are capable and able to process that information to tell them if it's related or not.
And Copper Horse, definition of rumor, entry 1 of 2. 1, talk or opinion widely disseminated with no discernible source. 2, a statement or report current with known authority for its truth.
And
There you go.
I take it you're referring to what occurred
Yep.
the other day, and absolutely true. But I can tell you that I know the information that they're working off of. I don't know if I have everything they have, but I have a large part of that information. And you have to weigh what it is, because you are dealing with one of the greatest liars this world has ever seen. Speaking of Kegan Kline, you had a man out there that went out and created and catfished these children, lied his whole life about who he is and what he is and why he was talking to these girls. And then most certainly continue his lies with law enforcement. And with these sources and things that he speaks with, when he's telling the truth and when he's not, what that community and that podcast did, it endangered evidence and endangered lives on both sides. Because if he's telling us what's true, then of course you endangering, there could be evidence destroyed by BG. What happens if he decides to arm up and resist arrest? Why would you forewarn someone? Or what if he just decides to harm family members and create havoc? And that was extremely, in my opinion, irresponsible of anyone doing. But then if it's a lie, you've endangered the lives of the ones that you said was corroborators of the crime. And once again, there's no win for releasing the information you released prior to an arrest. I just don't understand it, but that's my 2 cents. Other people may say that, oh, it's great. I don't know. I just look at from what law enforcement, or I would look at, my argument with my chain of command would be, no, we're not, we're not supportive of this type of release of information.
All right. And Cassandra, I'm honestly really sad. I was in tears thinking it was finally solved today.
And I was too. And I knew
think
as
everybody was.
yes, I got invited on another channel with Sonny, and it's a crime and shame. And so I was on there and speaking to them. And everybody had their hopes up that this was going to happen, and everybody was waiting on that news briefing and conference. Didn't come. Doesn't mean it won't come. And most certainly at some point, I do believe there will be justice for Libby and Abby.
And Jolly Scrapper, Mrs. Steve, that's the saddest day of the year for me too. See, I'm not by myself. And Jennifer Rochelle, same. I cry when fall starts. See there?
Yeah.
Misery loves company, so thank you. All right, let's get down here. I think we had a big jump here. I'm looking for. Look at the gun.
Oh, yes, that season. Every time, certain times of year
gunky.
in the mid-season when they change, it gets her.
I'm trying not to cough in everybody's ear. All right, so here we go. We have Sierra. Steve, with the amount of blood they speak of, would there be a lot of blood in someone's wash? I think a wife would notice that.
Well, I mean, there could be, but then again, the wash cycles might, and would there even have been that, and what type of individual we're talking about? The behavioral science units would go in and they'd look at the crime scene and be able to tell a lot about that individual. Is he someone that is in a relationship? Is he a loner? How organized he is? How disorganized he is? And would he even go to the point of possibly trying to wash the clothes, or would he just immediately destroy them or discard them? There's so many different ways that individuals could have done this, but and being in the wash cycles of the stains and stuff, I don't know how evident that, I've looked at a lot of washing machines over some of my investigations, but after it's washed and it goes through those rinse cycles, there's really not anything remarkable about whenever you look into the washing machine. Really, the only time you can really see something is pre-wash, and that's on the items themselves.
All right, and checking convictions. In the fall, you could lose a spot of blood on a leaf, etc. Oh, here comes the leaves.
Here's a leaf that I did recover and from my outdoor crime scene, but out of that crime scene I created up there, and checking with convictions extremely correct on this. I picked up 4 leaves of a crime scene that was probably 10 feet deep and 20 feet wide. And I went through, I'll come back. I don't even know how many ounces are in this thing, but 8 ounces of in this synthetic blood. And I went through about 6 ounces of different types of blood stain pattern creations, and trying to do everything I could with it. And I picked up 4 leaves that I could easily see. So 4 leaves in a 200-foot square area, it is. You would think that all the leaves would easily show. Now, when I hit it with luminol and when I photograph that, you'll see a difference. You'll be able to identify exactly where those stains are. And like I said, it's very revealing, the luminol at night.
And SB74, luminol is an amazing tool.
Absolutely. I'll never be without it from here on out.
All right. And digital, how effective is luminol outside? Can they make it dark enough to use the blue light?
Well, the blue light is luminance from the reaction of what the luminol does to the blood. You just have to be in low light areas. Once darkness falls, it lights up. It doesn't have to be Um, of course, I wouldn't want to use it on a full moon night, but if you have to, you have to. But any of the low light areas, pre moon or past moon, when it's the darkest of the night, it most certainly, when you hit it with luminol, it lights up like a Christmas tree, and and brings out um, this here is what you're going to see mostly on the right. Although I know that the shirt stripe pattern, what you see here on the right is a lot of what you would see in an outdoor pattern on the ground. And because I've already hit that up there one time, that crime scene when I first, 24 hours after I went up there and did a spot check, lit up like a Christmas tree, was waiting on my camera, finally got my camera, and so now I can go up and photograph it. But there's always something that we're having to get, but as we progress, we're getting it. But what you see here that's on this shirt, it's almost totally the ground looks like this for that 200 10 by 20. I mean, it's just absolutely 200 square feet of basically this. And then you have it also up on the trees, the limbs, the logs. And so it's not that you're using an alternative light source. This is the reaction from the luminol coming in contact with the blood stain, or in this case, the synthetic blood. Oh, 4. Thank you.
He still, or he still cannot get the 00 at the end.
Oh goodness.
And I did some digging on that, and for some reason, and I don't really understand it, that some people can do the 00 instead of the 99 cents and some can't. And I don't know what the difference is. So I'm still working on that, in other words.
But thank you for the Cyclops support.
Absolutely.
And for the fact that we have a lot of volunteers out there that help us, that send information. We have a sheet that we send out, they send back to us, and it has data on it of these missing children across the states as we build this mapping system, whereas people can go in and either look for cluster of murdered and or killed children or missing children, that they can look at these clusters and possibly identify a predator or see, anyone that may be missing in certain parts of the United States. And but we've created that to make it easier for any parents, law enforcement, which they have their own databases, but they most certainly are welcome to use it. And for us as a web sleuth, that we have something, and whereas we have where you can go in and look at these clusters and these children that are missing across the United States.
All right. And Diana Blake, hey, Steve, what kind of changes in blood staining would you expect to see if BG was already wet before committing the crime?
It may be a little bit larger, but you still have that luminescence. It's going to be there. Of course, like I said, the fibers, and as the blood hit it, it wouldn't be soaked in. It's not the first contact. And so you may have a little bit more spreading, a little bit larger of some of the, as blood first hits that, and it spreads out a little bit better, but you still have it.
All right. And Dog Defender, it is remarkable how far crime scene info has come.
Oh, yes. And I've been at it several years now, and you can see what's on TV. And there is almost everything you see on TV there's truth there. And it's just how fast they do it. That's not the way it happens. For boots
for boots on the ground.
Thank you again, sir. That means a lot.
If it's a guy.
Yeah.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Because like I said, and we're going to be going. Okay. Hey.
Petey. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And look here.
And she's
another one for your experiments. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much.
But I just thought it was important so that, you know, as people go out there and look at this stuff and they understand, and also that if people are suspect and they see certain, that someone may remember that, oh, so-and-so has a certain article of clothing, and look at pictures and see that this person had those articles of clothing and they no longer have them, and did away with them. And so calling that information, for the fact that if Bridge Guy kept the clothing, he most certainly had to clean it. If he destroyed it and it's something that you bought for him, most certainly call law enforcement, turn in that tip. But like I said, there's just so much that law enforcement will look at. And like I said, it's a two-way street. It's just not what's on Bridge Guy. It's what Bridge Guy also left on those two innocent children that might be identifiable and might lead law enforcement towards a certain suspect with a certain build, certain, you know, they may know exactly of that if this individual stepped into some type of blood stained, blood pooled area and then stepped in a certain area of the crime scene, did he leave those tread marks off those boots? Did he do that if he made contact with boots on some of their clothing? Absolutely. Seen it. Clothing is a great intermediate of that. If you process it, you can see a lot of stuff. Just like you can, like I said, you can see the knives, you can see the handprints, you can see different types of blood spatter.
And Carol at True Crime Web just joined you from Australia. Is this handprint just an example?
No, this isn't off the internet. This is something I created in my lab here. If you'll look at the shirt, you see the handprint, and that little stripe across the center is the stripe that you see here that's on this shirt. It's that stripe pattern. So no, this isn't just, it is an example of how luminol reacts. This has nothing to do with any crime scene I ever processed. This has to do with a controlled experiment that I created in the last week or so as I create content to show you that this is real world. This isn't something made up by some individual that has no idea about what's going on. This is from my training. This is from my career. And but I just wanted to be able to show people that this is what is actually out there. You see it on TV. You may or may not believe it's true. It's true as far as what luminol can do on these blood stains.
All right, we just have more money pop up here.
Back to what's important. Sunny Bunny, super sticker, $20. Thank you. Thank you. That means a lot
so
to us.
Much.
We're going to spend it on, it's probably already spent, but we thank you. Absolutely. It's all that support means a lot to us. It's very humbling, actually. I've never expected.
Incredibly humbling. All right, let's see here. Here we go. All right, and just Pam, Steve, I never realized just how much you can actually see with luminol. Wow.
It is. It's a matter of process, and it's multiple steps. I mean, when you're first spraying it and you're first processing it and you're setting up that camera, because once the camera is set up, lights out, and of course you've got other lights, your red lights and whatever low light alternate light source that you're using, but when you turn it off, I mean, you're working in darkness, and then you have to, I mean, this isn't like a normal flash. You hit that shutter speed. That shutter speed is going to be some of the technical stuff, but that camera's sitting there for 30 seconds to create what I created. And so that camera has to be still for 30 seconds. And for it to have that reaction, whereas it can catch all the data, the reflections from that luminance, and create that data file.
All right, and Anne, that sort of knife imprint could be really important. We probably won't have Perk's clothing, but Ellie does have victims' clothing and might find such evidence to link to a knife found elsewhere.
That's exactly what I'm saying. It's a two-way street. It could be the knife, it could be a boot print, it could be the handprint. There's so much stuff that when this process, of course, they haven't shared it with us, but I wanted y'all to realize that it is a two-way street.
You want to answer a question about Dylan?
Sure.
And Perry, slightly off topic, do you think Dylan was made to take off his shoes so he couldn't run?
That most certainly. I've worked a case where that actually did occur. Is that a possibility? Absolutely. I don't know if that's what occurred, but there's a reason those boots were taken off and tossed there, and for whatever reason, but most certainly that's one of the possibilities.
That's another sad one.
It is.
All right, so now I'm trying to find Lady M. I'm sitting here like a student, taking in all the info, like I'm in training class or something.
And you know, and it is that way. You know, when I first went into the started the training program, our state started this many years ago, and they made the steps forward and tried to. They was even going to give us that if we received the training, that the state was going to supplement our income along with our whatever we made for what the department paid us. And so we went in. Of course, they never funded it, but it still served the purpose of having a large degree of law enforcement being exposed to new stuff. And you know, it took us it took me about 2 years to get through all that. Yeah, about 2 years. But now with the new CSI, I don't know if they do as much training because we were the first class in the state of Georgia that went through that. I was in the initial graduating class, and you know, I think there was like 20 something of us, and it was extremely interesting. A lot of time spent and away from home and away from work, going down there to learn this stuff. And so it was amazing to come from a organization that I never even knew of luminol, never even heard it. But the first time I saw it, I was like, oh, this is the way.
All right. And Melissa, I've seen too much TV shows, Criminal Minds, CSI, etc. Love them.
Mrs. Steve is the same way. She loves them. And I
Can't watch them with him, though.
I like to go in there and mess with her on the crime scene.
No.
True Crime with Sunshine. Absolutely. I'm glad to see you here on my show also. She was on another show earlier. Check her out. She there's a network of individuals like True Crime with Sunshine. It goes out there and they work on so many missing children. They create so many flyers a day. I don't know how they do it. They create multiple flyers and trying to help find and locate these missing children. So much respect to them.
And Unsolved Crimes Uncovered. Maggie is a Shih Tzu. Mm-hmm. She was a rescue, so she has issues all her very own. She was my mama's dog, and mama got to the point she can't do it anymore. So
Unsolved, good to see you tonight. Another
That's
great
right.
channel. She did an interview with me last week. Absolutely loved it, and great channel, and most certainly check her out also.
Let's see here. I have lots of doggy moms too. I love that.
Oh man.
Oh, look at that. All right. And Scott Brown, did anyone else see where the
murder sheet
says their sources are saying that KK admitted to being in a red Jeep while the murder was committed?
Yeah, there were several creators out there that went with a story after they broke it. And like I said, that information's been out there. There's numerous creators that have that information. I don't know what level they have the information. I don't know if they just heard the rumors or if they have the actual documentation. But like I said, I don't know who all released it and everything and who made the decisions to do it. But MS has to most certainly live with that decision, good or bad. They did it. They have to live with it.
And Christy, was there a live update today? There wasn't, was there? No.
No. There was just a panic. Everybody, there was like 4 or 5 creators that went live and trying to cover it in hopes. And don't blame them. I do not blame them one bit. This is a major story. And of course, I decided I already had an 8 o'clock show, so I wasn't going to step up and do anything.
All right. And USA Libertarian, if KK made a full confession, how long might it take for LE to make an announcement?
Well, if he made a full confession, law enforcement still has a duty to go out there. Just because someone confesses, there's false confessions out there. They either have to know something that no one else knows about that crime scene, and also establish that they have knowledge of what transpired, what type of instruments, weapons, devices were used, where is that evidence at. They're going to have supporting evidence of that statement. Of course, they may have polygraphs, but the polygraphs, it's going to take more than just a polygraph be as the only supporting evidence. So they're going to be looking for some real hands-on types of evidence, such as a weapon or some type of device, and that knowledge of what went on. And then it's left up to that DA and the grand jury.
All right. And this will do nicely. Loving your experiments very much. Appreciate all the effort.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Let's see here. Christy Stevens. How do the gifted memberships work? Somebody's gifted memberships? Thank you. See, I don't know
the gifted,
how to find that out.
Yes.
Is this from Copper Horse?
I think Copper Horse gifted. It may be. And
okay.
What happens is I think you have to click on a box that you'll accept them. Once you get them, then of course you're a member for whatever.
No, it looks like, is it Fuzza? Did it? Wow, nice. I really do appreciate this.
Oh, okay.
So maybe it's Fuzza.
Okay, Fuzza.
Well, thank you so much.
Absolutely. Thank you for that. That means a lot to us.
We appreciate it.
Absolutely. And what I'm looking at, I don't have the access to all the information of who gifted.
See that now.
But most certainly we appreciate anyone and everybody that gives stuff.
Oh, Molly at Fuzza gifted 10 memberships. Thank you so much. So YouTube randomly chooses people in chat. You have to enable gifts for a channel in order for the channel to get one.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right. And Kathleen at Steve, do you think DNA or blood splatter could have been gotten from surrounding trees?
When they went in there, they most certainly would be in there processing and looking, because at certain parts of the crime scene, when you have victims in a certain location, certain injuries, they will be a certain type of blood spatter. CSI investigators, all that, they will recognize those patterns, but they'll go in and process outside that known area of where they anticipate. And they're looking for certain blood stains, certain blood patterns that are not part of what the victims are, because they're especially wanting to see, did that offender injure themselves? Have they created a blood trail that is their blood, their DNA? Have they touched or leaned up or possibly, injured themselves on a tree limb or something where some DNA may be transferred? And so there's a lot of things at outdoor crime scenes that can happen, and they most certainly be bringing in the K9s, using the luminol. And there's just so many different ways and different resources you can use and gather that information.
All right. And then Terracita, why did they cut down the trees on the bank?
I don't know. I hadn't seen, but there may have been some type of contact with those trees, and they took them to a lab for further, or parts of that trees. I don't know. That's the first time I've seen anyone reference that they cut down trees, unless you're talking about the trees they cut down on the river. That may be also what they're looking for, some type of evidence at that, because we have two different crime. We have the crime scene that had trees, and now we have the search that went on for multiple weeks with trees.
And early riser, thanks for the clarity and information to help understand the process behind what is given in the news. Thank you. Thanks for your service.
Absolutely, it was an honor. And like I said, I tried to do what my training for my community allowed me to do the best of my ability, and thought I might as well try to share it now.
And why feels kind of like you do. KK is the devil in human form.
Absolutely no use for him, other than if he'll end this nightmare and bring the data and bring the information. If he can solve it, give the information out. Let's solve it. Let's get everyone that needs to be off the streets.
All right, and let's see here. Teresita, this used to happen all the time on the beginning regarding false info.
Yeah, and sadly, but like I said, law enforcement do their due diligence, and when they make their move, they will. I just hate that people jump the gun and create a narrative that might possibly harm certain parts of the case or endanger lives. I just don't see a need for that.
And unsolved crimes uncovered, he or they may have disposed of the clothing.
I'm voting along with unsolved there. That's more than like that would be my first bet rather than taking it home. That'd be my first bet.
Mm-hmm. Vermont got snow today, and I don't want no snow. I don't do snow. Let's see here. All right, we had another one down here. Now I can't find it, of course. Let's see. All right, Kathleen McNally at Steve. I would think persons of interest should have their cars sprayed with the luminol.
Mm-hmm.
Blood on clothes would transfer en route from crime scene.
You are correct. Absolutely. From the boots to that. And most certainly law enforcement would do that if they have enough probable cause. And if that person's been turned in as a person of interest, and law enforcement may either go and do a consent, or if they have the right information and they believe it's needed to be done, they go get those, file those affidavits, get those search warrants.
Okay. And Sierra, thank you. I have wondered about the blood for a long time. We have answers. Thank you for helping Abby and Libby.
I hope we do have a great impact on and someone does step forward with information. We need it.
Yes. All right. And Bridget's been looking forward to the luminol reveal. Thank you for your dedication to truth and justice and for your incredible practical presentations of your experiments in your Yeti suit. Very good man.
Yeah.
He's a keeper.
Yeah. I've got a Yeti suit.
Yeah.
We got experiments we're going to be doing with it, some controls on it, cleaning and stuff to demonstrate.
There goes the washing machine again. Right?
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Let's see here. All love, much love, you're doing God's work. Y'all are so sweet. Okay. Molly at True Crime Web. This may have already been asked, but what does the newest version of luminol potentially destroy for evidence? Blood, fingerprints, etc.
There's certain types of chemicals and agents out there that light up blood. Some of them are destructive as DNA. The ones that you use on a crime scene, you most certainly don't want that type of luminol. But there's different formulas for different things. But the kind I use for this are the ones that I use it both for my experiments, and I'll use it most certainly on the cold case files where when you have access to certain areas where certain crimes may be and blood may type of evidence may be present. because I'm not going to go in there and spray something and destroy, just seeing a blood print saying, oh, I've got blood now. But if you destroy the DNA within it, what have you done? You've done nothing other than say, oh, this has happened, which can be critical at some point. But most certainly to be critical that you can either link that victim to that crime scene by their DNA, or you can link that offender to that crime scene by their DNA. So you most certainly want to pick the right type of chemical luminol to use.
All right. And MS claims close inside sources. How does LE handle getting to the bottom of who among them could be leaking? Do they investigate their own?
Well, most certainly, if up to this point, I thought that, well, maybe there is certain cooperation and maybe there is a working relationship between MS and the law enforcement. But there's no explanation for this latest release, regardless of it. Like I said, it endangered both sides. There was no win for this of how they released it, regardless. And so that tells me that, like you are suggesting, that it's a source and that it is not something that they're working in hand in hand with law enforcement, almost like a PR, and they're going to be working and releasing certain information for the benefit of the case. So that is going to be somebody that is a leak, and most certainly they'll be trying to close that leak off, because they would know through monitoring and the information, when was that information released, who was it between, and who had the ability to see that information. And so that most certainly narrows the field down to who the sources is or are of the over the past releases by MS.
In Sun Bunny, I have learned so much from this channel. Thank you both for your dedication and information. I'm from Georgia, but live in the Midwest now, and y'all make me homesick with your accents. Oh,
thank you.
Bless your heart.
And but yeah, I didn't know we had accents. Did you, Beck?
No. I know I don't. All right. And Sweet Caroline, Steve has a lot of knowledge. Makes this show so interesting. Thank you both so much.
Thank you. That's very nice of you.
So we appreciate y'all.
Yes.
All right. We appreciate each and every one. And Kim Fleming sends fine Dylan rounds.
That may be something that we'll be looking at. And I've spoke to Chris with the mob crew, who has been out there searching for him several times, and we've discussed that at a certain point we may, although there is hope that will be solved, and I most certainly hope it is tomorrow. But there's been movement on that case also, and hopefully it will come to pass.
And 4, at Steve and Mrs. Steve, I talk about your Cyclops system and how it will become a tool utilized by law enforcement across the country.
And
we hope so.
And most certainly, I mean, there's a lot of databases out there, and but we just wanted to narrow it down for those that we were interested in most, was the children. But they have, law enforcement has its version, the VICAP system with the FBI, where they identify certain victims by certain acts at a crime scene. But that, that may or may not get, but, most certainly anyone can look at this and decide how to use the information. And if it has an impact on one case, it's more than worthwhile for what Miss Steve's efforts and all our volunteers that have worked on this.
Let's see. Well,
it jumped.
It did. It always does its thing. This Google machine thing here, it has to keep up. Captain Underpants. Okay. Steve, can I ask why there has never been an official timeline released by law enforcement?
And like I said, law enforcement holds certain things, and for whatever reason, they haven't decided to release a timeline that I know of. They may have. I just don't know. I'm like you. I don't know where it's at if they have. Will they do that at some point? um, most certainly, I think public should know as much as they can know to solve it quickly. And but law enforcement, they make those choices, and they have to live with that strategy. If it goes cold, it's that strategy.
Oh my gosh, did you see that?
Kind of
Sending love and thanks for being you. Adam says, hi, Mrs. Steve. Oh, look at
thank you.
that.
Yeah, I was speaking to them earlier.
He's
and
so sweet.
I was on their show. They invited me on. They've been extremely supportive of my channel, and I owe them a lot, and I appreciate everything they've done and are doing. So pay attention to them, and most certainly go check their channel out and everything. It's a crime and shame.
All right, and I forgot where I was at.
And that's something that in the YouTube world we should do. We need to help as many good channels as we can to have an impact. Not that every channel has to agree on every point. That's not the basis of this. But it's got to be what your intent is, to have an impact, positive, to bring information to the public as quickly as possible, so that when there is a time and there is a need, that we can get the information out there to as many people as possible, as quickly as possible. And I support as many of these small channels and large channels as I can, because, like I said, they're
more the merrier.
Yes, the bigger impact we can have. And I've just been very fortunate with the people I've surrounded myself with, and I thank them all.
You got a good group. And Lady Bird, I don't think there will be an arrest. I think charges will be filed against someone already in custody.
Very possible.
Never know. Let's see here. And Eric Everhard, it says on the ISP site that the girls were dropped off approximately 1 p.m.
Yes. And yeah, there's different timelines, and some from the social media or the media that have, I think, a little bit later, like 1:20 something. So, but within that time frame.
And Olivia too. Apparently, Ellie doesn't release information about Delphi. We don't get very much there. Let's see here. Okay, and that's the fuzzy thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we got that. Bob Cruz, no, I'm not doing that one. And New Zealand Mysteries. Ooh, I love that name. I got excited today thinking there was going to be an arrest.
I did too.
You and everybody else.
I did. I also was in the same boat with you, and most certainly I got quite a few emails and text messages and comments, and I was hoping with you.
All right, this is at 8:56. Kathleen, someone just put up about 10 minutes ago a video that says that Tony Klein has been arrested, but no info on YouTube. Is this true or not?
I don't know what's happened 10 minutes ago, but 3 hours ago when this first broke, that wasn't true. When and if it ever does happen, I don't know. It would be check the Indiana news agencies, because it will be breaking news. And if the social media and the rumor mill out here, don't pay attention right now to what YouTube is going on, because it's going to be so misconstrued in the next few hours from what happened earlier today. It's going to be on those that you're going to have to rely upon the major news network. And when you see ISP standing on the stage alongside of the in Delphi with all the other agencies, then you'll know for sure.
All right, and checking convictions. Has there been any similar crimes that they may be looking at that would connect this murderer anyplace else?
I'm sure they wouldn't look at that. And there were certain indications that they did with Evansdale, and then when they put the billboards across the country. You don't put billboards across the country when it's just a local matter. So they were most certainly looking at that possibility, which they should. Doesn't mean that's the only, it doesn't mean that's what that one suspect was doing. It's just things that early on unknown, unsolved case, you got to cover your bases, and try to get as much information from as many sources as you can. It happens, but we'll know it one day. We'll know.
All right. And Bridget at Steve, supposing this red Jeep was the vehicle involved, would there still be traces of blood likely in crevices after all this time?
Most certainly, they would have to look at it and process it, and if it's there and they know where the vehicle is, they probably already have done that. I'm hoping they have. I hope they found that vehicle, and most certainly, I would believe they would have, for the fact that the information on that has been out. But like I said, law enforcement would know of it.
All right. And double rainbows. Is luminol utilized for any other purposes other than to see blood spattering?
I don't know. That's a good question. That's the only thing I've ever seen it used for, and the most useful resource for it. But is there other things it could be used for? I don't know. I've never thought about it. I'll look that up, see if there's any other alternative uses of luminol.
That would be interesting. I've never thought about it.
Never thought about it.
You've always used it for blood. All right, let's see here. And Perry, an Amber Alert was issued in the UK a couple of days ago for two teens, a boy and a girl, both 15, I think, but only first their names are being given. Why would this be?
I take it you're saying that only their first names were given. I have no idea, unless it was from some type of homeless camp or something. That's all they were known about, and there's some possibility of foul play. I have no idea. I'm just speculating on that, and shouldn't be. But no, it makes no sense. I don't know how they would do that and why they would do it. But they most certainly would believe that these individuals, if that's all the information they have, they most certainly would think that these individuals are in extreme danger for some reason, and along with those pictures and what the first names are. But no, I hadn't seen that or heard it, and that is a strange
It's odd
occurrence.
Mm-hmm. And straight from the horse's mouth, Steve, do you think it's possible that the second sketch is a biracial young man?
No, I hadn't even thought about that either.
It could be
no,
anybody.
Yeah, I don't know. I hadn't even thought about that possibility.
And 4 at Steve, thank you for setting an example of what a professional and successful crime group is made of.
Absolutely, and the crime group includes my community. Y'all are also helpful in what y'all are doing and talking and spreading the word, because that's what we have to do.
And Emily Rivera, I hope I didn't butcher that. Some channels like to bash other YouTubers, and I think that is pretty disgusting. I love your channel because you guys really are nice and honest. Aww.
And I may be critical of other channels at times, and it's from my own opinion of it, and that's how come I allow other people to voice their opinions of it, as long as they're respectful. Sit down, discuss the issues. If there may be some things that people can defend, and there may not be, and but everyone's is entitled to that debate, and so that's how we'll handle those.
And Michelle, that is why I think it's so important for LE to communicate to people, to keep the stories going, even the littlest thing they have in any of these cases.
And that's the great advantage of what's happening now with Web Sleuth World and True Crime, that we can go out there, create content to keep these cases in focus and the information out there, so that we have a greater chance at solving them.
True Crime Web, you're at 2.5 thousand subscribers now. 3 cheers. Woohoo!
That is shocking and humbling. When we first looked at the numbers, and it said with one of the things, it took 22 months for the average YouTuber to get to 1,000 subscribers. And I told Mrs. Steve that we're in here for a long haul, and we've been well blessed and lucky, and worked with some great people out there. It's helped us, and we most certainly appreciate all our subscribers and people that help us in so many different ways.
All right, now it's 9:15.
Okay.
You want to go to Kristen?
Yeah.
Has she started?
Yeah, she started.
Okay.
There's a over on Kristen's. I don't know if y'all know about. I'm sure a lot of you know about Kristen behind the crime door. Cop Facts is on tonight, and he's most certainly had a great career. I'm interested in seeing what he's talking about and see how he feels about certain things. So I'm gonna go over there and watch him unwind a little bit. Had a rough evening this evening with my hopes being so high and so crushed now. But I'm gonna go over there and see how what their information is, and if any of y'all want to go over there and help me raid Christian, let's go over there and watch that. But in the meantime, guys, if you have comments, share this video, comment on it, thumbs up, view it, email me any questions you have, and I appreciate all the members out there, all the volunteers. It means so much to us, and
thank you, mods.
Thank you, mods.
Couldn't do it without you.
No. And we'll see y'all in a few days, guys. Thank you.